Howdy everyone, Matt here. I got a question for you. Do you think that PT students should be compensated, should be paid on those clinical rotations? Let's talk about it. All right, everyone. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt. I am Matt the PT, coming at you with another video on another topic or something in the physical therapy world. And this one is about paying students on their clinical rotations. And when I'm talking about students, of course, PT, PTA, OT, OTA, speech, chiropractor, we're just encompassing all of them. But I'm just going to talk from my experience about this and my beliefs and my thoughts. And of course, I want to hear your thoughts, opinions, beliefs, all that. Let me know down in the comments below. Now, I see this come up from time to time online. Typically, it may be a student who is going through school who talks about it, saying, hey, we should be paid during our clinical rotations. Show me the money! And, or it may be someone who's been out for a year or two. They're saying, hey, I remember this. I wish, students would get paid during it. And it starts this big conversation back and forth, people just talking all about that. And I just wanted to share my experiences about that. First and foremost, let me just share my story from way back when, because that's so many people start that. I remember going through that as a student. I did 2 6-week clinical rotations, and then my last one was a 16-week. So yes, the whole spring semester was a clinical rotation, working 40 hours a week, 5 days a week in a clinic, and ended up, and being pretty much entry level by the end of it, because I was a third year. They said, by the end of this, you should be entry level. And I remember by the end of that, I had my own caseload. The patients that I had evaluated early on, I had been taking them through their rehab. When they would come in, they're like, Matt, that's your patient is here. I'm taking it. I am treating them. I'm writing up the note. My CI is inspecting the note. And we're doing the billing together. They're teaching me how to bill. And that's how we are doing it. And yes, I went through that. And I would say I was lucky during that time. I was married, so my spouse was working that time. They were working a full 40 hours as well. So we had a way that we had income coming in to help us pay for those basic necessities. And I understand, again, I was lucky and blessed with that. Not everyone is in that same boat. And I want to share, again, my thoughts about this whole thing. First and foremost, when talking about students out there, in PT, school, OT, all of that, I first completely understand. It's expensive to live. It costs money to just function and live. You have to cover your housing. You have to cover a car. You have to cover your utilities of wherever you live. Electricity, gas, water, trash. You need to pay for internet. You need to pay for, devices. Cell phone and computer, like a laptop, and for whatever people say, you need those things because so much of your schooling is communicated online. You have to have a way to have internet and have a way to communicate. And really, this is what I feel like people get so lost when they when they get upset about this. The vast majority of people are not talking about like, oh, I want to live in these like super huge lavish homes and have this like really expensive car and the newest cell phones and all of this. No, they want to have something reliable. You want to have a safe, reliable place to go home to. You want to have a car that's reliable. You want to have, computers that are reliable. You want to have a reliable internet, reliable. It's just something reliable. And so you are having to pay for that. And I also understand that school in general, it's very hard to work. And I wish everyone actually understand this. And if you want to share this with family or friends who like to try to throw this crap out, you just need to get a job and you just, I'll explain it. You can send them this little snippet right here. I understand going to PT school, it is hard to work during that time. One, you are taking, the number of hours that like undergraduate takes. So you're taking 12, 14, 15, 16 hours of classes because PT schools are cohorts. So you're working through. So you are taking a pretty high caseload, and the level of the education that you taught is taught at a graduate level, so a very, very high level. So yes, you're in class, was it 4, 5, 6 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. On top of that, you are studying. So you're spending the time in class, and then you're going home studying, meeting up with your classmates and studying. You're having to put forth that effort. You're putting forth that effort in evenings. You're putting it forth on weekends. You are doing those things. An important aspect, again, that comes with studying is recovery. Going to class all day, you're studying through the day. You want to have some sort of downtime, some sort of time away from it, from yourself. So yes, you are dedicating a lot to this, to your schooling. And people will say like, well, you can just get a job and just this. I'll tell you, it's not as easy as you think to get a job. And this is not an excuse. And I would put this forth as well. If you think it's so easy, I would like you to try to go do this. You please go apply and do these jobs. Because one, you're kind of hampered by the fact that you're in class certain times. Because again, in PT school, we can't just pick classes whenever. They're only at certain times for us. So your schedule is your schedule. And some of these places say, hey, well, we want you to work this. Well, I can't do that because of this. They also may want you for, again, a certain number of hours a week. Well, you may not be able to dedicate that because you're either in class or, again, you have to dedicate time to study, sleep, recover. Those things, you have to dedicate those times. And lastly, this is a big thing. Those big employers, those places, don't want to hire people like that. It is extremely hard to try to find some of these jobs because, again, are you going to be able to find places that want somebody like, oh, you can only work 10 hours a week? No. We don't want that. No. You're going to have to do this. No, you're going to have to do this. Well, your goal is to be a PT. So I'm going to put the effort into being a PT, not toward doing these other little jobs and doing these other things. And I will tell you, employers don't like that. How do I know? I went through that when I was in school. I was applying. I filled out so many applications for those little, whatever that people may say are meaningless jobs or blow off jobs or what, cart pushers at retail stores, any position in retail stores. I was applying everywhere. No one was hiring. The only one that ever called me back was one retail place, and they wanted me for at least 24 hours a week, and I could not give that to them because I was in class. So it is very hard to actually just function and just have a job. So before anyone throws out that 10-second solution, and if you don't know what the 10-second solution is, it's a solution that someone gave all of about 10 seconds of thought to and just threw it out. Here's the solution. No, please, just go do that. Go get that little job like you're explaining to. You go do it. See how easy it is. And likewise, the next step, when you're on your clinical rotation, I understand you are working full time. You are there the whole time that your CI is there. You are putting in 40 hours of work every week. You end up treating patients. Now, it is varying at each level. First year, you may be not doing as much by yourself. Second year, a little bit more. Third year, again, like I said, you're expected to be entry level by the end of it. So you can get to a point where you're just handling your own caseload. It's like that you are working as one of the therapists there. And I would put this out. Really, what's the difference between someone who's a third year and someone who's a new grad? I mean, really, what is it? Getting your degree and then taking your license. So legitimately, you could almost say like there's a week difference because if you graduated Monday, took the test on Tuesday, got the results on Wednesday, you could start work on Thursday. So is there really any difference like in the skill set, in the stuff? Because at one point, 1 week, this person needs to be supervised and we have to watch all this. Next week, here's your patients, they're out there in the waiting room, pick them up, take off. There you go. That's how you're treated. And I will say this, one of the employers I worked for many years ago, they never expressly said it, but they said it in a roundabout way, that they encouraged everyone to sign up with all the schools around and to take on students. They were, take on these students, take on students. And they would bring this up to say like, oh, when you have students, you could see more people. meaning that you can put more on your caseload. And so the students end up seeing those patients and you're supervising them, but make sure that you're billing right. Just make sure that you're billing correctly. You're using those group charges, that you're breaking up the charges. Make sure that you're doing all that. They were really big on hammering that part. But you can see more of these people and they're working with them. And then, you just do the billing. So they were exploiting this free labor and this saying, oh, you can see more people. They're billing under you so that you're seeing more and we're not paying out. Now, I will say this employer never put that in writing. It was only verbal. And I will say that they would honestly deny it if it ever came down to anything. So, yes, they were, some of these big places were saying, take on students. And they wanted to treat you just like a full-time person. And if you think it's crazy that students are not compensated for being a full-time employee, hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Back to the video. So I want to say I am totally for compensating students, that students being compensated in some form or fashion while they are on their clinical rotations, because I understand I was a student at that point. I was a student there. And that is something that people throw out there. Oh, I went through it and I survived. You can do the same thing. That was my experience. And I understand it sucked. It was hard. It puts you behind. You still have bills to pay. Like I said, granted, I was lucky. I was married at the time that my spouse was able to make money. So yes, it was a little easier for us. But I've had, like I said, students over the years who were single, who were struggling, who had to use family members or try to, again, like I know I talked about jobs, maybe found little things on the weekends or whatnot that able to compensate them. But I do feel like students really should be compensated. But this is the question. This is the big thing that I ask, is that where is that compensation going to come from? Who will pay students while they are on these clinical rotations? The first solution could be that the clinics pay the student. So if you take on a student, you are responsible for compensating them. But here's the thing. Are companies going to be willing to spend more money on students who therefore don't technically generate revenue for them? Like, yes, the student is billing under the CI. They can see more patients. However, that student is not independent. It's someone else there. It's almost like a tech that could do a little bit more, but they would really possibly see it going, oh, well, now we got to pay something to this person. So do we, we're really not going to do that? Because I'll tell you, if you've ever run a clinic, many of them are not generating a ton of money. And again, you're going to end up paying somebody, an additional person, and that student may be someone who's super great. And somebody may just be average, and somebody could be below average, and it could really affect it. So I feel like if you try to make the clinics pay, they just won't take students. And the next one could be the schools. The schools could pay because, the schools, hey, while you're on your clinical rotations, you are being compensated while you are there. I think that would be a good one. However, again, do you become an employee of the school? Do you fall under them? The school could say, well, that's redirecting. We don't have the money because we're putting those funds toward other things. And so we can't really compensate you on it. Or does it end up increasing tuition overall? Schools are funny about that whole thing. Or you could say like the government, the federal government, state government, whatever could subsidize that. Hey, we're going to take money and compensate because you're investing in public health, which is good. They should compensate the students on there. But again, spending that money would require that the legislators get on board. You're going to have to pass a lot of stuff, whatever going on. And it could turn into a point where they utilize that as a bargaining thing or some sort of political move of, oh yeah, it's a good thing that we're investing in our future for the health. But then people could say like, well, people are coming into the state and then they're doing this, they're taking our money and then they're leaving out, going over, they're not staying here, not reinvested. So that could turn into some big political move and that could just be absolutely crazy. With that being said, it's like, it's just kind of murky. Like, where is that money going to come from? Again, are you going to be like a W-9 employee where the taxes and things are held out? Or are you going to be like a 1099 where that you are just compensated and then you have to pay the taxes out at the end of the year? Could that mess you up again with being paid on those rotations and you could end up owing more money or something with the government? People who are more into finance and accounting could probably talk more about that. But could that be something? Again, what happens when you're a student versus an employee? Because you would then therefore technically be an employee because you are being compensated in a way, and that you could be under, you have different things that you are required of as if you are an employee. So could that come into play, that you're not there to learn, you're just there being compensated? So you're an employee. So yeah, you would probably get more protections, and you would fall under those employee protections. But what happens with that? And I would even put out there, like, could this lead to more exploitation of students? So you're working somewhere and say, well, if you're being compensated, we're going to expect more from you. Now that you're going to get a full caseload where you're not actually getting educated, you're not spending that time with the CI and learning while you're there, because now you have an expectation to meet, goals that you have to meet, productivity standards, whatever, we all feel about those. But could you fall under that? And then again, employers just exploiting students in that case to say, oh, this person is being paid to be here. Well, if you're being paid, you got to follow all of these things. Now, before anyone says, yes, we got to throw out there, it could be people who just kind of milk that system. I don't believe it would actually be that many. It would be a case here and there where somebody's just there to make some money. But it would fall in, would you actually pass the rotation? Because your CI is grading you the whole time you're there. And if you're doing poorly, your CI is not going to pass you. And if I've had to reach out about students in the past who were not doing well at certain points, and or even talk to the students and say, you need to step it up. You're not passing right now. And so, yeah, if you're not, doing that, again, could that also get into any kind of labor issues and things like that? So that being said, it could just be this just really murky, crazy thing. So that's my thoughts on it. Yes, I agree. Students should have some sort of compensation while they're on their rotations. It's expensive to live. You already can't work, and now you're expected to be like a full-time therapist, and you're not making any money. So, and it's hard. It's hard, and they should be compensated in some way. But where is that compensation going to come from? That's the big thing. Where can it come from in a way that ensures that students are not being exploited, that everything is just fair and equitable? With that all being said, let me know your thoughts, your beliefs, your opinions all down in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you enjoy all the content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost you a copay or anything like that. And until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of your patients. I'll see you then.